American Airlines reservations, Miss Robbins.
I'd like to go to Chicago. Do you have any seats on one of your flights for Friday of this week?
We have frequent non-stop flagship service throughout the day. What time of day would you prefer to leave?
By the way, I wonder if I could arrange for my return space while I'm here to purchase my ticket. I'd like to come back this Sunday afternoon.
Advancement in aircraft design, and with it an increase in sales effort, have brought about increases in passenger volumes, which in turn have increased our reservations volume to a marked degree. To handle the ever-increasing volume in reservations offices over the past 20 years, redesign of procedures, operating techniques, and the introduction of new equipment has been necessary. Examples of this are availability boards, air sails, and the magnetronic reservisor, to name but a few. Finally, 6 years of joint effort by IBM and American has resulted in the most dramatic step forward in reservation systems with the announcement of Sabre in October of 1959. Sabre is an automatic electronic reservation system. Its central processing site will be completed in the fall of 1961, and the first American Airlines city will be going into operation in early 1962. In its present concept, Sabre is a reservations processing system, completely centralized and wholly electronic. Ultimately, Sabre will be capable of handling air freight routing, aircraft routing, crew scheduling, and other such data processing functions. In all commerce and industry the world over, Sabre is the largest real-time data processing system. It is second only to the military real-time systems known as SAGE and BMUS, and utilizes basically the same equipment. Our system will operate with the same reliability as these military systems on which our national defense effort depends. We have been using the words real-time. What is real-time? This is a common phrase in computer circles and is best defined by comparing a standard computer operation with the Sabre operation. A standard computer processes data in batches according to a planned schedule, usually on a 1- or 2-shift operation. This standard operation is shut down periodically each day. A real-time computer processes data 24 hours a day on instant demand. There can be no shutdown time. Let's see how this system works. Sabre has 3 major components: the reservations console, operated by the reservation salesman, the central processing unit, which is the heart of the system, and the communications network, which connects one to the other. Let us look at these components and their operation more closely. This is the reservations console, which is manually operated by telephone salesmen at field sites throughout the nation. The air information file is recessed in the countertop on the left and stores the air information cards for convenient selection by the salesman. These cards contain all of the pertinent information formerly found in the air information book and some punched holes that automatically identify the card to the computer. When in use, these cards are placed in a display rack on the flight selector unit. Buttons on the flight selector enable a salesman to select lines and columns on the cards that are to be interrogated or sold. The director unit on the right registers such command information as date, number of seats, availability, sell, and cancel. The printer unit in the center is used by the salesman to enter variable information, such as name, phone numbers, time limit, facts, and remarks. This printer is also used by the central processing unit to confirm the entered data, respond to the salesman's requests, reproduce stored records, and to indicate to the salesman any errors or overlooked items. At each Sabre field site, there will be some additional electronic equipment. Some of it is attached to each console, and the remainder is to connect the field site to the nationwide system. Each console is connected to a timing control, which acts as a storage unit for data to be transmitted to or received from the long lines communications network. From the timing control, data passes through a multiplexing communications unit called a MULCOM. The MULCOM controls the sharing of the long line circuit between all the field sites on that circuit and the central site. Connecting the field site with the central site is the communications network with over 10,000 miles of voice channel circuits. These circuits are volume balanced and have a higher requirement than ordinary phone lines. All other parts of the system are basically units designed to communicate with the high-speed computers at the central processing site. In the central processing unit, there are two identical sets of equipment with only one set online at any given time. All records are stored in a duplex electronic file system. To trigger this vast system into lightning speed operation, a customer has only to lift the phone and dial American Airlines reservations at any of our cities across the nation.
American Airlines reservations, Miss Robbins.
I'd like to go to Chicago. Do you have any seats on one of your flights for Friday of this week?
Miss Robbins reaches for the Detroit-Chicago Air Information card and places it on the display rack on the flight selector.
We have frequent non-stop flagship service throughout the day. What time of day would you prefer to leave?
Miss Robbins selects the director button for the month. Then she selects the director buttons for 0, and then 6, representing the day of the month, and depresses the button for 1 seat.
I'd prefer an afternoon flight about mid-afternoon. That would get me into Midway before dinner time.
After pressing the availability button on the director unit, green lights glow alongside the listings on the Chicago card for open flights on May 6. After selecting Flight 147 with a 5:30 arrival, which pleases the customer, she presses the Sell button on the director. In no more than 3 seconds, the central processing unit starts her printer with the record of confirmation. The printout shows first flight segment on American, Flight 147 of the 6th of May, 1 seat from Detroit to Chicago Midway, with flight times 4:15 to 5:30 p.m.
You have a definite reservation for Friday, May the 6th, on our flagship leaving Detroit Metropolitan at 4:15 in the afternoon and arriving in Chicago Midway at 5:30.
After confirming the flight to the customer, she returns the air information card to the file. Striking the printer key for name, she asks for the passenger's name.
The name is Franklin, Norman Franklin.
This name is typed directly on the printer.
Thank you, Mr. Franklin. May we have your home and business telephone numbers?
She strikes the telephone key on the printer and types the business phone Woodward 2 3000 and a B for business. This is followed with the home phone and the letter H for home.
Yes, the home phone is Tuxedo 53794.
Tuxedo 53794.
She arranges for the time limit on picking up the ticket and strikes the printer key for time limit. 5 p.m. on Wednesday the 4th is satisfactory. She then determines that it is the passenger himself who is making the reservation. Striking the printer key received from, she types the letter P for passenger to enter this information. As she entered each unit of information, such as a phone number or a name, it has been flashed to the central processing site in New York from her reservations console. The act of completing the information directs the MOLCOM, or Long Line Sharing Unit, to transmit the data to the central site at the next available instant. At the central site, the information has been temporarily stored in the computer section known as the salesman's working area until it has all been assembled. When all of the required information has been entered, the End Transaction button on the director is depressed. The 7090 computer sorts and processes the data, and, if it is all in order, sends it to the passenger record storage where it is electronically filed. The printer then adds the symbol OK to indicate that all is in order and that the customer's record has been filed. If an error has been made, however, such as the omission of the customer's name, the computer would instantly sense this error and print out at the console a phrase such as "no name." After entry of the omitted data, the computer would then indicate OK.
Thank you, Mr. Franklin, for calling American.
You're welcome.
All of this stored data is now available for use or for display and inspection, such as 2 days later when our customer, Mr. Franklin, stops in at the downtown ticket office to pick up his Chicago ticket.
By the way, I wonder if I could arrange for my return space while I'm here to purchase my ticket. I'd like to come back this Sunday afternoon.
Why, certainly, Mr. Franklin. Just let me check your record.
She presses the display record key, telling the central processing unit to print out the records for the customer and flight she is about to enter. Then she enters 147 on the 6th of May and Franklin N. This data is flashed to the computer at the central site. The computer searches the electronic passenger record files, locates the record, and in the proper sequence flashes it back from the central site to Detroit. It starts the printout at the console, all in less than 3 seconds. Following the first line of interrogation to the files, the computer directs the printout of the name, the number 1 flight segment, and the phone numbers. Then the last line, with a P for passenger making the call, the pickup time limit, and the record identifier on the right. This identifier contains the personal code of the original salesman, followed by the city, the time of the transaction in 24-hour Eastern Standard Time, and the date of this original transaction. She selects the Detroit-Chicago Air information card from the file and places the card into the flight selector. After selecting Sunday's date and 1 seat on the director panel, the availability button is pressed.
Would a mid-afternoon flagship arriving in Detroit at 4:39 be convenient?
Let's see, I'm having lunch in Chicago at 1. Well, that'll work out just right.
Having pressed the sell button, the printer automatically prints out the second or return segment of his trip. She then confirms the data for him. After checking the customer's phone numbers, she ends the transaction.
Here is your ticket, Mr. Franklin, and have an enjoyable trip.
The customer's reservation for his return trip is instantly added to his record in the passenger record files at the central processing site. With this single action, just witnessed at Detroit, multiplied by over 1,000 consoles across the system, we can begin to realize the magnitude and the capabilities of Sabre. It is hoped that this presentation has helped you to better understand its operation.